and welcome to my channel, and welcome back if you're a returning subscriber. Now, today I'm going to talk about the events that transpired between Mariah Carey and Eminem. Now, for most people, this feud started in 2009. However, it had been going on for a better part of a decade when Mariah Carey finally addressed the whole situation publicly in her song Obsessed. Now, before I start, I want to explain to the youngins that were too young or not even born at this time that Eminem wasn't as respected as a rapper like he is today. Back then, he was considered very controversial, and although his antics would be considered mild in today's society, back then he was America's bad boy. Parents didn't want their children listening to him, and Mariah Carey had this like wholesome girl next door, America's sweetheart image to uphold. And she just basically didn't want to admit she was with him because she felt like it was a threat to her career. So let's go to where this started. In 2001, people started suspecting that something had gone on between Mariah Carey and Eminem. And I know what you're thinking. Why wouldn't she admit that she was with one of the most famous rappers of all time? Well, in 2001, Eminem wasn't as popular as he is today. He was a rising star, but he was still looked at as one of the small fish. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it, but it's like when you look at like Trippie Redd and Drake. You know, Trippie Redd would be viewed as a small fish compared to Drake. And I think that's kind of how Mariah viewed Eminem. So she didn't want to be known to be with a small fish, if you get what I'm saying. I also think that Mariah wanted people to know that she was different. She wanted to come off as this girl that not just anybody could have, but she would give little hints here and there in interviews to just kind of basically make it seem that Eminem wasn't anything to her. He was irrelevant. She didn't even know who he was, and that he was just this obsessed crazy fan that was stalking her. I mean, that is literally what she was coming back with. Now, this was a time before social media and YouTube, and the only way that you could get any kind of information about celebrities was in the tabloid magazines and the channel E, I think it was the E channel or whatever, entertainment channel, Entertainment Weekly channel, whatever it's called. And both of those things are heavily scripted, and they're like white picketed view fences of celebrities. For the most part, they controlled your image, and they could make or break your career. But nowadays, when a scandal happens on TMZ, the celebrities can directly speak to us through their social media. But back then, during this time, there was no direct communication between the fans and celebrities. So you did hear about, you know, feuds between celebrities in the tabloids or on Entertainment Weekly if you were watching it. But most of the time, if you read something about the feud between Mariah and Eminem, it was always in favor of Mariah. And they would paint this picture basically the way Mariah had described, of him just being this guy that was just too overly excited to be in the presence of Mariah, and that she couldn't handle it. And that's why she didn't want to be with him or something like that. And Mariah's story would always change. Now, I think a lot of this was mostly because of Mariah's team. They were definitely working overtime to keep a lot of this drama under the rug. And, you know, what inspired me to do this entire video was the Twitter thread that I read, this one in particular, basically about how Eminem had played her voicemails at his concert. Like, I didn't know this information. In 2018, that would have been headlining pop culture news, but back then, Mariah's team was strong enough to keep that fart to a whisper. So in 2002, she starts doing these interviews, basically claiming that nothing ever happened between them.
Dated Eminem?
What's a date? Did we ever go anywhere on a date? No.
What was your relationship with
I don't even
Eminem
know.
like?
It certainly wasn't a physical one. That I'll tell you flat out. That I can name the men I've been with on less than one hand, and he's not on the hand.
So did you date him?
No. Can I just clarify that I did not have a physical relationship with him? I did not have an intimate relationship. I've been with less men than I can, you know, than on one hand. So he's not one of those men.
Between you and Eminem, if anything?
Nothing. Look, I talked to him. I, have spoken to him a few times, whatever. But in terms of me having like an intimate relationship with men, I can name them all on one hand, and he ain't on the hand. Less than one hand, okay? He is not
And so after that, that is basically when this feud was on. That's when they started going back and forth. And, you know, before that, you would hear little whispers here and there, but now it was a full-on fight. So in the song Superman, if you remember that song, I think that's the first time he referenced her on a song. So in 2002, 2003, she came out with her album Charm Bracelet and basically had a song called Clown on there that was about him. And then she also went on tour later that year and made another dig at him on stage, basically making fun of the Marshall Mathers show. So then in 2005, that's when Eminem brought it up again, basically playing her voicemails on stage.
Yo, Albert. What are you doing? What are you doing? You just played the wrong shit. Well, who is that? You love me. Yo, that sounds like Mariah Carey.
That's me.
Oh, get the fuck out of here, man. Don't tell me she's behind one of these doors. Mariah, I told you to stop following me every motherfucking city we go. It's over between us. Remember you said there was never anything between us? Remember you said on VH1 or MTV or whatever it was that there was never anything between us, and you never flew just to my house at 5 o'clock in the morning and passed out on my motherfucking kitchen floor?
What are you talking about?
You know what the fuck I'm talking about.
I know you got a new wife.
Not a new wife, it's the same girl I've been with. I'm trying to make shit better at home. I'm trying to get my family back together. You're fucking up right now.
Like this, you like this.
Oh my God, I'm gonna be fucking sick.
Every time I think of you, I was gonna.
And she basically denied that those were ever real. Now in 2006, Marshall mentioned her again in a song. In 2006, promoting his album, again, he mentions her on a radio show. And it just goes to show that rappers start drama to promote music. And they've been doing this since back in the day. And then in 2009, and he puts out a song called Bagpipes from Baghdad. You should go look it up if you haven't. And basically says things like calls Nick Cannon a prick and wishes him luck. And calls her a bunch of names and stuff like that. Like I said, go look it up for yourself. But this is pretty much where Nick kind of lost it. And he wrote a very lengthy blog post about Eminem. And, you know, just kind of went on this whole rant. So after this, the big song came out. The final straw that broke the camel's back, Mariah came out with the hit song Obsessed. And that is when this fight, this feud was actually brought into the spotlight. Because before you would hear whispers of something going on here and there. Like I said, if you were actively seeking out this information, or if you like read the tabloids and you would see like a little paragraph on like page 29 about it, you know, but other than that, you wouldn't hear much. And now Mariah was full blown addressing the entire situation and basically called one of the best rappers alive at that time an obsessed stalker. Basically saying that he was obsessed with her, he was stalking her, and that she doesn't even know who he is. And for a lot of fans, you know, nobody even knew this was going on. And like I said, I think Twitter had just started. And so for a lot of people, this is when the feud started. And a lot of people can argue that Eminem definitely ended the fight after this. It's just crazy how this feud would have been hashed out on Twitter over the course of the week at the most. But back in the day, stuff like this would go on for years because it just took so long to get pop culture information out to us. And, you know, when TMZ came on TV, it did change a lot of how we viewed celebrities. And then social media came into the picture. That's a whole video in its own. Whenever TMZ and social media and all that came into the picture and how it changed the way we view celebrities. Like, I might make a video about that. Let me know. So back to the feud. After Mariah Carey came out with Obsessed and the dust kind of settled, Eminem finally responded with a diss track detailing basically one of their encounters and what a lot of people suspect to be the reason their relationship ended. And it kind of said that she was grossed out when he did something on her stomach, and that's why they went their separate ways. However, one of Eminem's former team members claims that he had actually peed on her and that she's so embarrassed about what had happened that that's why she denies the entire relationship. Now, I don't know if any of this is true. However, what Eminem said about what he did to her stomach, that is actually on the song. Okay, so after Eminem threatened to release pictures and voicemails, at that point Mariah backed off and everybody dropped it. Eminem didn't want to bring it up anymore in interviews, and Mariah was no longer addressing it. And I think the reason for this is because it was no longer back and forth beef to promote an album. It was no longer a joke. It was personal, and I think they definitely had a relationship. There has to be some truth to both sides. I don't think Mariah is so delusional that she really thinks that this guy is obsessed with her. And I don't think Eminem is also 100% innocent. I think he definitely dated Mariah and kissed the ground she walked on. So here's the thing though. Back in 2001, if you wanted to send your boyfriend a picture, you had to physically give them a picture. So I wouldn't be surprised if Eminem has pictures of Mariah Carey from back in the day that she had given to him. Like, you guys remember that when somebody was your boo. Like, you knew somebody was your boo when they gave you their glamour shots. Like, that's when you knew somebody liked you, or if they like were with you. Like, remember whenever that girl, she'd come around with her little glamour shots, the little wallet size, she'd hand one to you and you'd be like, oh my god, she likes me. I remember that back in the day. But anyways, the last time that this entire feud was brought up was actually by Mariah's ex-husband Nick, and that was in 2016, and he brought it up in an interview very briefly. My conclusion about this entire feud is I think the confusion for this was that one reason or for another they didn't get along. But I think it was more about her acting like a diva and just kind of acting like she was better than him. And I think he kind of viewed it as like, girl, I make as much money as you, if not more. And I also see Eminem's frustration because he basically candidly said in an interview, yeah, we dated, but it didn't work out. She has talent, but I personally don't like her. And I think she took offense to that because she, like I said, wanting to keep this image of this perfect, wholesome girl. And, you know, in her eyes, I think she saw Eminem as just this dirty, controversial rapper that would just ruin her career if she was seen with the likes of him. And I think that's why she comes back to the no, we never did. And it's just kind of like the he said, she said thing. Like when you go back to high school and a guy would dump you and you tell your friends that you actually dumped him, but then you were like secretly leaving messages on his phone begging for him back. Like, that's, I think the whole situation was what was really going on. But what I just really think what happened between them is that, you know, they had a big misunderstanding as to what the relationship was. And I think a lot of what it was is that Mariah had this image that I feel like maybe even she believed in. And, you know, Eminem saw right through that. And I don't know, I just think he had a problem with the fakeness going on, you know, and how she just like continuously just kind of acting like she was too good to ever be with the guy of the likes of Eminem. And I remember Eminem was just kind of like not having it. Like, dude, I am not so much of a loser that I can't get a girl like Mariah Carey. That's what I feel like it was about. But who knows? Either way, whatever happened between them, I think Mariah Carey missed out. I think a lot of people can agree on this. Mariah and Eminem are very close, and as far as income goes, they pretty much made about the same money around that time. So I think my conclusion in this point in time of pop culture history is that Mariah Carey and Eminem definitely dated. Who knows if they actually had a relationship? I think they definitely were intimate at least once. I don't think Eminem is the type of person to just make up some stuff like that. But then again, you got to remember that This is hip hop. This is rap culture where people purposely make things up to get attention. And it's very possible that Eminem just kept trolling Mariah Carey because he thought it was funny at that point. So let me know what you think in the comments, if you think they dated or if you think that Eminem was just trolling Mariah the whole time. Now, I think they definitely dated and there's some truth to both sides of the story. But I definitely think Mariah was being a diva in this situation, but she's known for that. I mean, it's been like 20, 30 years that she's been around, and the one thing that she's known for is being a diva. But one thing I don't get is how you could admit to being with Nick Cannon, but you won't admit to being with Eminem. I don't understand that. But anyways, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in another video.